Real life, real talk, real wisdom. This is Cross Culture. Welcome back to Cross Culture. I'm your host, Kris Gunewardena, and I want to bring a topic to you today called less is more. Now, this concept comes from what we've been seeing in society today. During times of recession, people try to go in a million different directions, trying to figure out what works. Part of living a cross-culture lifestyle, or a lifestyle that is in alignment with God's purpose for your life, is understanding that your business and how you're able to earn an income is just as important to God as any other part of your life. God wants to be involved in your life spiritually, financially, emotionally, in your marriage, in your family, and in your business. And part of that is understanding how can you be successful, because once you're successful, you can be of more value to God's kingdom. So looking at less is more is really understanding how we have to operate during these times of recession as a believer. Now, like I said, many times people are going in a million different directions. It's like they're trying to chase after 10 bunnies that are running around a room. And just as soon as you catch one, there's another one you got to go after. And so you're bouncing around trying to figure out what works. As we've talked over in previous sessions, people have been going to self-help seminars, success seminars, trying to figure out what is the next great thing that they're supposed to do. But what I want to tell you is when we look back at the Bible and see the wisdom that has been proven for thousands of years, we start to understand that less is more. Our foundational scripture for today is going to be out of the book of Proverbs, chapter 12, verse 11. And that verse says, "He who tills his land will be satisfied with bread, but he who follows frivolity is devoid of understanding." And if you look at other translations of that verse, it says, "He who works his land shall have plenty, and he who chases fantasies is foolish." So I look at that as what we see in today's society. Everyone's trying to go in a million different directions instead of figuring out what is really working for them already. I feel like when we work our own land, which is a concept I learned from Tim's story of working your land, first you have to figure out what your land is. What is the area that you are supposed to occupy? What is the space of influence and the customer base and the client base, the product, the service? What is it that you occupy right now? Before you go out trying to chase a million different ways to make more money, what is it that you've already been given? What is your land that you're supposed to work? See, our tendency during difficult times is to try something new. After all, we're going through difficulties, so I might as well go out there and try something new to try and make more money. We try a lot of things without analyzing what the impact is. How many of you guys have done crash dieting where they've said, hey, take this pill and it'll make you lose weight, or take this pill, it'll help you increase your muscle mass? Little did you know it would have effect on your organs or give you long-term health side effects that you weren't aware of. Why? Because we're trying to try something new because we're so concerned about achieving a quick result that we take measures that may not be good for us in the long term. See, experimenting will cost you time and money and may not yield the results that you're after. Remember, all roads don't lead to Rome. Activity does not equal progress, and what works for others may not work for you. So instead of trying to figure out how other people are doing it or what the secret to success is for others, you got to figure out what really works well for you. Now, how can you do that? How can you figure out what is your land? Now, when it comes to your business, you have to really understand your numbers, because if you're not measuring something, you can't improve it. If I want to lose weight, I can't just say I want to lose weight. I have to figure out, what do I weigh now and how much weight do I want to lose? The same thing when it comes to determining how to increase your business. If you want to increase your business, you have to understand your numbers. So if we look at how can we increase what we're doing, how can we work our land, I like to employ the 3-3-3 method. Now, what does that consist of? Identifying first your top 3 customers. So if you look in your business, your profession, whatever it is that you're doing for your work, what are your top 3 customers? Whether you're in the haircutting industry, the barbering industry, and your top 3 clients are people from the business side of things. Maybe they're realtors or they're business professionals. Maybe that's your top 3. If you're selling products to the medical industry, maybe your top 3 clients are hospitals. It could be that you're in a garment industry. Maybe your top 3 clients are Marshalls, Ross, and TJ Maxx. I'm just giving you some examples, but you have to look at and see who are your top 3 clients. The next thing is determining the top 3 products and services your customers buy, subscribe to, and consume. If you're in the podcasting industry, what are your top 3 subscribers? Who are they? What's the demographics? When I say really drill down to the specifics, I've talked to some people in the financial services industry, and we discussed, okay, what type of policies did you sell the most of? And one of the friends that I interviewed was Pablo from the Financial Architects. So he was indicating that the number 1 product he sold was term life insurance, and it was for the age bracket of people 35 to 45. And they were people that were employed and working as an employee for other companies. So instead of him worrying about trying to go after people that are older or younger, he already had a client base that he'd already established based upon his current business practices. So instead of trying to reinvent the wheel in order to increase revenue, all he has to do is go after the demographic that he resonates with the most. The last section of the 3-3-3 method is define what are your 3 best sales strategies that were utilized to get that business. So let's say you determine your top 3 clients, you determine the top 3 products and services that they're purchasing from you. Now you have to determine, how did you get those clients? Was it from Facebook ads, Instagram ads? Was it the Yellow Pages, Google? Was it door-to-door knocking? Or was it mailers? What was it that was utilized to get those top 3 clients and services done? And once you do that, now you've got a roadmap of what is your land, what has worked for your business. And it's not pie in the sky. It's not something that you hope will work. It's something that's been proven by your own results in your own business. What I've done in my research is when you look at improving those areas, if you can figure out what your secret sauce is using the 3-3-3 method, if you would make a 10x investment in those areas, you can get a 100x net result in what you get out of that, because you're putting money and investing in something that already works. You are now working your land. This will allow you to maximize your current business before you do anything else to change your company, your business that you work for, or any endeavor that you're in. Without having to change it organizationally, you're going to be able to work what you already have in place. Now, once you've determined what your land is and how you're going to work it, now you have to understand that you are in a competitive landscape. I don't care what industry you're in, you do have competition. Now, once you've understood what your sales strategy is going to be, you have to figure out what is going to set you apart. And this is really where it comes down to tapping into the supernatural ability that God has given you. And that is really what the essence of cross-culture is. It's aligning our thinking with God's purpose for our lives so that we can impact the culture. And how do we do that in our business? We have to understand what sets our business apart. What can we do to draw attention to our business? The first ingredient to really setting your business apart in the marketplace is excellence. You know, I've given this example before. How many times have you seen a commercial for Rolls-Royce? Think about it for a second. I'm sure you've seen a Mercedes-Benz commercial. I'm sure you've seen a BMW commercial, but I guarantee you haven't seen a Rolls-Royce commercial. Why is that? Rolls-Royce knows who their customer is. You won't see them advertising during the Super Bowl. You won't see them advertising for primetime television. Why is it? They're going after a client that expects excellence, and that client is not going to be the one watching TV on a weeknight. So they go after, if you look at how Rolls-Royce advertises, they go after people that are in the private jet community. They may go and advertise at golfing events where you have high net worth individuals. They are selective of who they market to because they know who their client is, and they've established a level of excellence that sets them apart from any other car maker in the marketplace. So you have to understand, when you're going after less is more, you have to be really, really minute on the details of how you zero in on who your customer is and how you're going to go after them. You know, when we look at the example of less is more, we go biblically to Matthew chapter 5, verse 16, and that verse says, "Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good or excellent works and glorify your Father in heaven." We have to understand that God is a God who does things in excellence. So if we claim to be his representatives, we have to do things in a way that represents him. Because guess what? It doesn't say that men may see your average works, your mediocre works, or your just good enough works and glorify your Father in heaven. It says that they may see your excellent works and glorify your God in heaven. So if we want to really glorify God, we have to do things in a manner of excellence. And that applies in every area of our lives, including our businesses. The level of excellence that you are willing to rise up to will dictate how much you stand out in the marketplace. If you're not willing to go to excellence, you will just have a mediocre and average level of business that you will achieve. See, excellence defines the level at which you are willing to do business, the level at which you're willing to operate. And because of the level of excellence that you have, will dictate the level of customer that you're able to go after. You know, part of the business that I'm involved in is an aerospace company where we build products for the military and aerospace industry, parts that go into satellites, battleships, and other devices. And that's a business that has been around for over 30 years. Well, our customers pay for excellence. We can't just tell them, well, we did the best that we could, and I'm sorry you put that part on a satellite and it didn't work, but we did our best, but that was not good enough. It has to be excellence. And when you go after excellence, you start to be able to charge the most amount of money for your service because people are willing to pay for things that are of good quality and made with excellence. You know, the book of Daniel was someone that the Bible defines as someone who had an excellent spirit. If we look at the story of Daniel and in the lion's den, what set him apart was his excellent spirit. If we look at the book of the story of Joseph in the Bible and how he went through so many trials and tribulations with going into slavery, then going into Potiphar's house, then going into prison, and then finally going before the king, what set him apart, the Bible also said that he had an excellent spirit. When we do things in the right way at a high level, we unlock God's supernatural ability in our lives because we start to do things in a way that only God can do. The Bible says in the book of Ephesians chapter 3, verse 20, it says, "Now to him who is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we ask or think, according to the power that works in us." Now, when you look back at the Greek definition of the word exceedingly, exceedingly means excellent. And the root word of that is really defined as a God kind of level. So when we operate in excellence, we start to operate at a God kind of level. As Pastor Tim Story would always say, when God's super is on your natural, you can do the supernatural. And that's what we have to operate in if we want to set ourselves apart. If we're not willing to operate in that excellence, what type of testimony do we have to anyone in the world? If we're slipshod, if we're half-baked, if we're mediocre and average, how can we witness about how excellent our God is? So if you want to have an impact on your culture, the way that you do anything in your life has to be at a level that represents God to the highest level. How much power do you operate with? And if you say, well, not much, then I would challenge you that it's because you're not willing to operate at a level of excellence in every area of your life. The second aspect, after we get through excellence, is looking at diligence. Diligence is persistence. You know, I had the chance to have a sit-down chat with Coach Michael Burt, and the way that he defined persistence and diligence is long obedience in the same direction. See, a lot of times I've met so many Christians that are what I would call one-hit wonders, where they say, man, you know what? I was amazing back in the 90s. I used to do amazing things. Or, man, my business and everything I did in life was really good back in the 2000s. Well, we're in 2023 now. So I'm glad that you did well back then, and I'm glad that God was able to work in your life back then, but what about now? And a lot of times, if we're not careful, we've allowed our standards to slip over time, and what used to be a very high standard has now become a very low standard. And because of that, we've seen less and less of God moving in our lives because we haven't done things at a level that truly represents Him. If we claim to know the Creator of the universe, who has done everything in excellence, how much more should our work, should our life represent the level of excellence that our God has? And diligence is basically our willingness to be obedient for an extended period of time doing what God has told us to do. You know, if I was to look at some sound waves on a machine, the level of excellence is your amplitude. How high can you go? Your diligence is how long you're willing to do it for. Are you willing to be excellent for a month? Are you willing to be excellent for 6 months? Are you willing to be excellent for a year? Are you willing to be excellent for 10 years? See, your willingness and your obligation to yourself of what level you want to play at is your excellence, but how long you're willing to do it is your diligence. And only in your diligence can you truly achieve the level of success that you want to achieve. One of my favorite verses in the Bible is Proverbs 22, verse 29, and it says, "Do you see a man diligent and skillful in his business? He will stand before kings. He will not stand before unknown men." What I really feel that that verse is teaching us is that our diligence will get us in the room. Our excellence will keep us there. See, when we look at what was Joseph able to do in the Bible, his diligence everywhere that he worked was able to get him in the room with the right people. But the excellence of what he was able to do was what gave him longevity in his position. Why did he have longevity in Potiphar's house? And Potiphar made him head over all of his household. Wasn't only because he was hardworking, it was because he did a high level of work. So if we want the supernatural, if I asked you today, you know, do you want God's supernatural power to be operating in your business, on your job, at your work? I don't think anyone would say no. But are you willing to do the level of work that it takes to get that? Are you the type of person that clocks out before you're supposed to? Are you the type of person that takes extra long breaks? Are you the type of person that puts in the bare amount of effort to get the job done? Well, I'm sorry, but that's not going to cut it as far as getting God's blessing. If you want God to bless your work and bless the work of your hands and the fruit of your labor, that everything you put your hands to doing would be blessed, as His Word says, you have to do things at a God kind of level. And that takes determination, that takes effort, that takes diligence to get to that level. And so when we look at what it really takes to be successful. One is we have to know what our land is. We have to understand what territory has God given us. Instead of trying to reinvent the wheel, look at where you've already been successful. What does your track record tell you? Secondly, is going after excellence in every aspect of our business. If there's something that we can do better, we should do it. If there's a piece of equipment that would allow you to achieve a better level of service to your customer, you should purchase it. If there's more training that you can do to develop your skills so that you can be a better representative of your company, you should do it. If there's more time that you have to spend honing your skills and really improving how you act in your job and how you perform in your profession, you should do it. And diligence just means that I'm not going to give up until the job is done. When my grandfather was alive, he was known as a perfectionist. He would have his TV dialed into all the right colors. He even made an Excel spreadsheet of every color and every time of day. So he had it morning, midday, and evening, and he had all the color settings labeled out. And what he would do is at those times of the day, he would go and adjust his color settings to the optimum setting, and he averaged that over the course of 2 weeks and used that data to compile how he set his television. He had an excellence mindset. Yeah, we call it OCD nowadays, but he had a mindset of excellence, and that's how he operated in every level of life. And because of that, he was able to obtain and achieve high levels of success. If we want to set ourselves apart in the marketplace, if someone looks across your industry, what separates you from your competition? If you're just as good as your competition, why should they choose you? But the level of excellence and diligence that you're willing to have will set you apart and will leave an indelible mark in the marketplace that will drive customers to you. And that's how we can work our land and have plenty during these times of recession. And that's how we can truly represent God, by tapping into His mindset and using that to guide our lives so we can have an impact on this culture. This is cross culture. This is Kris Gunewardena from Cross Culture. If you like the content you've been seeing, please click to subscribe, or you can see previous episodes right here.